Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we're discussing the Tuba Thieves. So briefly, the Tuba Thieves is an experimental documentary which explores the implications of an incident which took place between 2011 and 2013 when tubas were stolen from a number of Los Angeles high schools. The story isn't about missing tubas or thieves. Instead, it uses the story as a jumping off point to explore sound, specifically life in the absence of sound. Directed by Allison O'Daniel, this is a very unique film which challenges audiences to put themselves in somebody else's shoes. Allison identifies as deaf, and in making the film, it was very clear that she was conscious of the fact that a lot of audience members are very unfamiliar with the deaf experience or those who are hard of hearing. But also she wanted to consider audiences that have never really considered the impact that different sounds have in experiencing life. In terms of narrative, in terms of pacing, you really have to let this movie flow through you because it's really not about the Tuba Thieves. Instead, it uses this as a way to explore these bigger themes. So if you go in with no expectations and just let the movie work its magic, you will have a very unique and special experience. So when these tubas were stolen, a lot of the reporters were very much focused on who did it, why did they do it, like trying to focus on the politics of it. But no one really considered the impact these instruments would have on the band. And more importantly, the students that literally would have nothing else to do while their peers were like practicing. And there's a wonderful conversation with the instructors at one of the high schools music departments, and they're basically just really sad because without these instruments they're missing a particular sound, and they're kind of just at a loss in terms of how they can recreate this sound or recreate this impact to get the same experience. And I think it really speaks to the fact that you really don't know what you got until it's gone, whether it be the sound of a tuba, the beach, the birds, the crickets, just all these noises that we kind of put to the foreground. And the movie is very ambitious in that it asks, like, how would you remember these sounds if they were taken away from you? And more importantly, how would you interpret these sounds if you've never heard them before? And the way that the film investigates sound, it's not so much only this force that unites people, whether it be music, whatever it may be, but it can also be this force that causes disconnect, misunderstandings, conflict between different groups of people. The movie was very nuanced in terms of how it articulated the deaf experience. Like, there are different levels to this, and the movie articulates these levels using various imagery, various stories, various historical clips. And I think the point the movie was making is that although you may experience something in a different way, that doesn't mean the impact is not the same. Like, you can appreciate and love something the same as anyone else, regardless of how that information is being transmitted to you. I also love the use of open captions in this film. It's not a feature that I ever turn on. Usually open captions describe like other sounds outside of dialogue, unlike subtitles. And even with subtitles, like, you only use them for foreign film or to try and understand the movie. But in this case, the director is very clever to use open captions to enhance the story, not just like as an adage to the story. And I think what I appreciated about the film was how it tries to use a number of different elements, whether it be visual, body language between characters, and open captions, to really try to commentate on sound and the effect it has in terms of like our quality of life, or like the quality of our experiences. So in terms of characters, there are no main characters. We kind of flow back and forth to different people in this community, and we don't really stay with them long enough to get to know them in any meaningful way. But it's almost like we're getting snapshots, and sometimes they're in public spaces, sometimes they're in private spaces. And I think this is to emphasize that it's often very difficult for people to communicate with individuals who don't know how to listen to them. So in terms of characters, the individuals that stood out to me was this beautiful woman and her boyfriend by the name of Nature Boy. And we don't see a lot of him, but from what we see, he's very expressive. He's very engaging. Like, he has this way of communicating with people that really gets your attention. And at one point he's doing this hearing test, and he basically just says, "This is silly. I've been doing this since I was a kid. Like, I've memorized the answers. And the individual administering the test essentially tells them, well, you don't know the order. Like, she says something to basically legitimize the test and give it some authority. And I thought it was really telling how sometimes the technology we create or the tools we create to bridge communication gap between different people can actually make us really lazy and facilitate misunderstandings and actually be super demeaning, right? Like, you're not really forced to engage or actually try to understand the person that you're with, because you have this technology in the way that kind of does it for you. So people aren't really thinking or listening in the way that they're supposed to. And so overall, I think this was a very, very unique film and a very special film. It really gets audiences to consider the effect that sound has in their lives, especially all these white noises, like how much they actually amplify the spaces that we're in. Like, I've never really considered the effect that sound has in terms of shaping my perspective in different things, just because there's so much of life that we just kind of walk through. And the movie basically tries to ask, like, what does it mean to listen when you don't know what to listen out for? And more so, how do you engage with something or enjoy something you've never been conditioned to respond to? So overall, this film is, again, if you have a chance to go watch it, I would say watch it. It's currently coming out in select theaters, and eventually it will have a wide release. So you guys let me know what you think. And if you do have a chance to see it, please let me know what you thought. I always love movies that think outside the box, you know, so I was pleasantly surprised because I really didn't know what to expect. So you guys let me know what you think, and until next time.